the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Now, Nyankopon ya domwa ochina na chese na ochi pepepe ni ena o my Ghana eti asemwa na in fact o mai yente ho abakosem da se Ghana penimfo maako nwoche ebetu onto edi afrin kran se yekọ ne yakodi juma edi aboa o mai ewo afana baabi na atorenchem kese sei bekọ akosi amanipa nwotwe nyina afa so ahwere won kwa in such a horrendous manner. In fact, now many questions were being asked by several Ghanaians now omo follow this story of the helicopter crash. Brebeto ja say the victims have been bent beyond the recognition. Ghana for do na busa say na birthday ebusuafo ensa etumi aka various bodies na omo asie no said the amamre kwanso kire. Now Ghana man panyini His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to nim for if them Ghana for nyina so te say they are going to conduct a DNA test ewo South Africa buchimemu ya ebeboa amaye to me identify say the power do a ehre won kwa in this horrendous manner no we Dr Maneboama we Dr Mutala Mohammed we flying officer we a staff sergeant, we a Dr. Samuel Sapon, we a Alhaji Lumina. Enunti Yakupon enemy His Excellency ye do to me ma ye fly bodies no at the South Africa buchimemu ema report no eba bonten ye to me hunu say we ema ye gina asumpo editu anamo wan ne ye ka say 2 of the victims. Minister for Science and Technology, Honorable Dr. Mutala Mohammed, yape ne krabe said the Muslimi and Shishayeti FFF. Sanso na Alhaji Lumina so, also yape ne krabe FFF said the Muslimi Shishayeti. Na adia ba kwa na Ghana for do na hwe animu the forensic analysis ana koso. Say report no beba betodwa de yehunu adia potia koso after the crash. Yankopon adom anopay and a forensic report no be dri. Now according to the forensic analysis as described by Dr Anabah, or see after the crash a janitor helicopter the victims bent at 3,000 degrees Celsius. 3,000 degrees Celsius. In fact Ghana ponifo ya papa because science try and say the boiling point of even water is 100 degrees Celsius. Now per small investigation amaye the highest ever temperature recorded for a molten lava in a volcanic eruption is 2,200 degrees Celsius, and it was recorded in 1978 in Brazil. And for Dr. Maneboama, may his soul rest in perfect peace. For Dr. Mutala Mohammed, may his soul rest in perfect peace. For me to say Dr. Samuel Sapon to burn at over 3,000 degrees Celsius. It shows the kind of a painful death these noblemen were subjected to in their line of duty. The other interesting revelations are mean to me, Moboso. The person who see about tre. Now we could hear this audio. Ya yenya edi free. Yenya no Metro TV phone chain. Yeah, Dr. Anabah or explaining or share to Ghanaians the full report of the forensic analysis of the helicopter crash and other interesting revelations. Tiebeko Nyakuti.
And implement it step by step, giving ourselves a look. In 10 years' time, we want our health sector to be at this level. Whichever government comes to power must follow that blueprint, must invest in that manner. I think we would have these things resolved. But this knee-jerk reaction we do, and we run this way, we run tomorrow, we do this, next tomorrow we do this, we need to have a blueprint. And that blueprint must be respected. And you can't just go and buy equipment and come and put them here. See, it comes along with the needed human resource. not only the needed human resource, but even power. Some of these equipment are very sensitive to power fluctuations. We need to stabilize that.
Okay.
The people you are going to train can't just be one person. It must be a group of people so that there can be succession. In case one is ill, in case one retires, somebody takes over. Whilst we do that, we can do a lot of investigation. I tell you, in this country, we don't spend money researching. We don't spend money researching. Money doesn't go into research. The small researches we do here, and is not what makes a health sector become very attractive for health tourism. No, we need to invest in the health sector, set up institutions that when you are coming for health service in Ghana as a health sick patients for health tourism, you are confident that the turnaround time would be short and everything will be done within Ghana. Then you go back. We don't have that. So to me, we would not say we are blaming. I would not blame a single person. I will blame all of us for not pushing hard, including we, the doctors, including we, the scientists, because it is how you convince the sector minister about the importance of what you want to put in the budget that they would consider it. Perhaps we are not forcefully forcing them to understand that some of these gadgets, like the DNA machine that we're requesting for, is very vital for so many things. That is not, we shouldn't throw our hands in the air. There's some good news. Just yesterday, France 24 published that Ghana has built the first, African first genetic database.
What is that?
It means that a database to code the genetic tree of Africa. You know, all the genetic database we have in the world are on whites.
Okay.
But Ghana has so far successfully, with the lower grade machine that he was referring to, has successfully built African first genetic database. That database can help us to know if you have this type of gene, which diseases are you prone to? Can you develop this type of cancer? So when they test you and you fall within any of the markers of a particular gene, you can say that, oh, you, Mr. X, you can develop perhaps colon cancer. No, you can develop bone cancer. No,
and so that would
then,
that would then inform lifestyle choices.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is a very interesting revelation.
Yes.
So yesterday, Annie started an exercise, a very useful one indeed.
Yeah.
And it was actually what I'm continuing with, because I talked about the fact that we need to start asking what I call the critical, the big questions, the tough questions, the hard questions, and so on. She started yesterday, I'm already continuing. What for you, since this incident happened, have you been thinking about in terms of what questions have you been asking yourself? Of course, on the spiritual side of things, a Muslim, you're Christian. As Muslims, we say, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un." To him we come from, to him we'll definitely will go back. But in the physical realm of things, what have you been thinking of?
I said after I read about the pedigree of the pilots, I then asked myself, this definitely couldn't have been perhaps fault of inexperience.
So what it means is that initially, you were thinking, was the pilot experience enough?
Yes. But after reading about this background, their background, even this co-pilot and the rest, I realized that there were people who understood the spatial movement. Then came my doubt, my questioning about what I heard from the ground, that everything, even including the framework of the helicopter, was turned into ashes, and that everything was just ash. Then I asked myself, what could have caused a metal to just degrade into ash? Just like that. Because at least when a metal is heated to a temperature of 2,800 degrees Celsius, it turns into a mold. Before it can turn into ash, you need a temperature of 3,700 and something. Was that temperature up to that? And if it was up to that, like I said previously, then may their souls really find space in heaven. Because I know flight combustion is very flammable. But that doubts come to me. Was it that very hot in the natural atmospheric pressure to have that amount of heat to turn it into that? That is my worry. So I said, okay, let's just allow for a proper research. Then told myself, in any country that this happens, there is something will come out to explain. There's always something to come out. Good luck. The black box has been found. Definitely, there may be voices they may hear, what happened before. Even the story that it tried to land 2-3 times before it went to crash. All those things definitely will be discovered in the black box. And then I also think that I didn't need to speculate too much. My only worry was that the metals themselves turned into ashes.
Yeah.
That was my main. And that fragments were several meters far away from where the incident happened. What might have caused it, because if it crashed on the ground, and it should spread within some perimeter frame area.
Yeah.
Instead of that distance, some people were explaining more than 200 meters, 300 meters, and all that were bringing doubts to me. Was it something that exploded inside in the air before it lands? Because if it explodes in the air, yes, it will scatter very far. But if it explodes on the ground where the forest is thick, the shrubs and then the trees around might protect particles from getting that far. That was my thought. So I had that thought. But all the same, I'm happy we have a good team, a forensic team here to do the investigations. And as we've said, we've already contaminated the place.
Crash site.
Right? People rushing there, doing all what they wanted to do.
Somebody even took a watch.
Yes.
That's
So
what
you
was
see,
interesting.
it would make the investigation a little bit difficult. To make it a little bit difficult. So I would urge that anytime something like this happens, like abroad, we see they'll go and cordon the place. The military or the police will get there first and cordon the place and prevent anybody from entering. Even some of the pictures we saw, we wouldn't have seen it. Next time, we have to actually hold ourselves not to be filming those things.
Kindly.
Now, okay. What I'm saying is that we know for a fact that the actual time of departure, Alpha Tango Delta, was 0912 hours.
That's correct.
14 minutes into the flight, which many Ghanaians wouldn't know, the plane went off radar. But let me quickly state that when a plane is off radar, it does not mean that the plane has crashed. It simply means that based on its location and the surrounding terrain, and maybe weather, the radar covering the area cannot pick the location of the plane. That's all that it means. But 14 minutes into the flight, it went off radar. If the plane was expected to arrive at Obuasi after 50 minutes flight at about 10:02 hours, at 10:02 hours, the plane was not there. So per standard protocol, an alert was made. And I'm aware personally that the Ghana Air Force called Kumasi, and when I say Kumasi, I mean the Central Command, to say that there is a plane. Of course, the Central Command knew because some of the elements in Kumasi were already in Obuasi, where they also have an FOB. Have you seen the flight? That was 30 minutes later. Per protocol, after 1 hour, if the plane is still not found, I mean its location, then the distress call is made. That's the protocol. So every substantive action to find the plane technically started after 1100 hours. Now, what did Central Command do? The FOB at Obuasi was told that you are expecting the plane at Long Clay Stadium, Sports Stadium. So if the plane is not there, can you go to the Ashanti Gold Airfield and see whether the plane is there. That was the function the FOB played. Then 4BN was directed now to deploy a search team. Now remember, the soldiers are not sitting down in barracks, sleeping. So you need to find them, quickly mobilize them, find the transport, and then start moving from the location of Central Command, 4BN Afari area there, towards Sikamai. It's not 5 minutes distance. To cut it short, the team led by the commanding officer of 4BN got to the crash site at 1400 hours, 2 p.m. The regional minister got to the crash site at 1500 hours, 3 p.m. Now remember, from the start, I had estimated that the plane crashed about 0953, 0955. By 10 o'clock or 1000 hours, the plane had crashed. When it crashed, the farmer or farmers who were in the forest, plus some civilians in the village who had seen, as you had just shown, were moving to the area. So the locals had a lead time of 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, which is 4 hours. It is not correct for anybody to say that the military did not get there and allow the civilians. The civilians were already there. Either they were on the mountain or they were in the village, Sikamai, and were moving there. Nobody could have prevented that. It is out of curiosity, out of our indiscipline, out of lack of knowledge and so on, that when they got there, they started, removing critical exhibits from there. Now let me take another angle. Remember on another news file Saturday, I had said that a second helicopter should have been deployed, or a second aircraft. At the time, I didn't know. But Ghana Air Force has an Mi-17 Russian, bigger than the Z9. That was based in Tamale for Boko crisis duties. Oh. It was task ordered to move from Tamale to Kumasi, which it did. By the time it should have taken off for an aerial reconnaissance or aerial search and rescue, it was already clear in the media that the crash site had been found. So that plane did not stay there. At about the same time, General Headquarters or High Command ordered the CASA 125, which is a transport plane, to move from Accra to Kumasi. When it did, it moved with the preliminary investigation team. That was a plane that we saw back in Accra with the coffins. Anyway, when the 4BN team, went to Sikamai, they went with 2 ambulances. And there was another ambulance that came probably with the regional minister, who also came with the fire service and so on. I think the police came with another ambulance. So there were 3 ambulances. Those ambulances had body bags, at least the one from the military or whatever it is. So those were the ambulances that were used. And I want to explain that ambulances should not take dead bodies, but under certain circumstances, they can convey dead bodies. After that, the ambulances need to be sanitized, fumigated, and so on. So there was nothing wrong with that. They took the bodies to the Prempeh the First International Airport, Kumasi. It was there that the bodies were transferred from the sacks that we saw into body bags. Then the plane and put on the CASA 125, which took off. Now, all the preparations that we saw at Accra, coffins draped with Ghana flag, happened in flight. See, the coffins were not prepared on the ground. In fact, the coffins had been ordered at the instructions of the CDS from Accra, not from Kumasi. The picture one gets is that if you piece the timings together, circumstances did not prevent anybody from being at the crash site in 30 minutes, in 1 hour, and whatever. Per protocol, all action substantive started at or from about 1100 hours. And then it took another, let's say, 3 hours for the troops to be there. Anybody will tell you, even the regional minister moving from Obuasi took about 2 hours. And then another 1 hour through the bush path to get to the site. In a way, the presence of the locals helped us to be able to identify the crash site. Let Ghanaians remember that at Atiwa, it took 3 good days before we knew where the crash site was. So the local community were a blessing. They played a positive role, including joining with the military or the recovery team to recover the bodies or body parts from the slope where the plane had, crashed. But on the other hand, they also played negative roles, because the protocol is that no exhibit must be tampered with. They must lie where they are. Because the investigation team, during the forensic analysis, will be able to build a picture as to how the plane crashed and how its parts were strewn, including the bodies, were strewn here or there. Finally, let me say that in that general area, and I think we all saw the hills, in that Obuasi general area, the highest peak is 1,250. Accra is 200 feet above mean sea level. Obuasi is 1,250. The crash site or impact site is 725 feet above mean sea level. So this high ground. We know also that the accounts say a bo esi. And we know what the boy is. It's fog. So the plane was not flying in daylight. But what GMED had told us that July and August were going to be this or that, misty, rain, storm, whatever it is. That was the kind of condition that it was flying through. We know now that there were 2 other helicopter flights moving in the southern part, which all emergency landed. One aborted, the other one continued. We know that even yesterday, a Volta River Authority helicopter, it happens to be also a Z9, but the original one based on the French Dauphin model. What crashed from the Ghana Air Force was the Chinese, if you like, Chinese model. So the conditions have not been very helpful.